Well, hello. Here we are again, gathered together, and I'm so excited about it. Um, I always end up doing this kind of in the evening, so sorry if I get a little light glare going on my glasses. I know that can bug some people, but it's because of the hour, and it's
Mm.
because I like to do this when nobody's around. So sometimes it's early and sometimes it's late, but it's usually never in the middle of the day. It's just much easier to record when there's nobody here. So here I sit at 9:30 at night recording, because I love all of you and because I'm so glad to share Christ's word with you as we read from the Gospel of Mark tonight. And and as we look at this amazing gift of Advent that is now before us. It is Advent time. And I can hardly contain it because I've been waiting for Advent for some time. I've been looking forward to this series because so much of our lives, I feel like we are in Advent. And that is um, the way I've always seen Advent, is that it is like this wilderness that we wander through as we prepare for something wonderful. Only we don't know what the wonderful is yet, and it hasn't come. And we've been promised something good. We just don't know what it is, and we don't know when it's coming, and we don't know what it's going to look like. But when it comes, we know it's going to be fabulous and it's going to be so much better than right now. So we can put up with right now until the good comes. And that just resonates with me a lot because a lot of my life has kind of been like that. I can make it through this. And I told the kids they always struggle with this, and I tell them all the time. I'm like, they're like, how can you do that? How can you do shots every week? How can you do some of the things you do? And I'm like, because I know that it isn't forever. Because what I'm going through right now, even if it's exhausting, even if it's frustrating, even if it's painful, I know that I can make it through because it's not forever. Because nothing here on earth is forever. Because eventually Advent ends in celebration. Eventually, Lent becomes Easter. So, these seasons we have in the Church of Waiting, I absolutely love because that is what gets us through every day of our lives. It is Advent for a lot of people a lot of the time, but we know it is not a perpetual Advent. It is not this thing that never ends, but our Advent always ends in Christmas. And our Lent always ends in Easter. Our seasons of waiting and our seasons of wilderness in the church always end in something worth waiting for. And so we wait. And so we're going to journey through the wilderness this Advent, and we're gonna have a journey that takes us through some different kinds of wildernesses that the scripture is going to be pulling forward. And as we do, I think they will resonate with you. I think that all of us feel this. Today, we're going to be talking about the wilderness of exhaustion. And I believe deep down inside that almost everyone in the universe knows this wilderness that we wait through, um, hoping that our Christmas will come. And it is this exhaustion, and I know you do it too, just like I do. We think, oh, when this season is over, we can finally rest. And then a new season comes, and it's hard too. And we go through this perpetual cycle of hoping and waiting for the next season to come, for Christmas to come, and for us to finally get rid of that exhaustion, even if it's just for a little while. Eventually, all the presents will be opened. Eventually, all the food will be cooked. Eventually, all the relatives will be visited. Eventually, all the sickness will be cured. Eventually, all all of our unemployment will become a job. Eventually, our house will be paid off. Eventually, our children will understand what we have gone through. Parents, you know that one. Someday you'll understand. Someday this is going to happen. Someday. That's our wilderness. That's our Advent. And when we can throw ourselves into a season of wilderness, when we can really embrace the fact that sometimes we are in wilderness, then we can embrace the hope and the anticipation of knowing that there is an end and that joy comes in the morning. And so we have these words today from Mark. Listen to this message from Mark chapter 13. But about that day or hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It's like a man going on a journey when he leaves home, and he puts his slaves in charge, each with his own work. And he commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore, keep awake, because you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow in the morning, or at dawn. Or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. Now, the reason why this passage is so near and dear to my heart is because sometimes it is so hard to keep awake, and I am not a sleeper. Thankfully, one of my gifts is not needing a lot of sleep. You know, if I can get 4, 5, 6 hours, I'm fine. My family doesn't understand that. They're just like, why? But I have a gift of not needing that. Only sometimes that's a curse, because when you're the one who has the gift for not sleeping, people take advantage of the fact that you're able to do just a little bit more. More things can get done in the day. More things can pile up onto your plate because, oh, you've got more time. Only not sleeping doesn't mean you have more time. It just means you have different time. Just for the record. Time to slow down, family. But in this passage, we hear some, it's like a little desperate plea from that master. You know, you don't know when the time is coming, but I am coming. I am going to be there. But you don't know when. So you need to be ready. When we're the ones who are exhausted, these are not words of hope for us, are they? Or they don't seem like it. It doesn't seem like what we want to hear. Oh, you guys, you know what? I know you're exhausted, but just keep awake because eventually I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. And we wait. And we wait. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait. And it's exhausting. But we don't just stand there and wait. We have to work while we're waiting, and it's even more exhausting. And we just want to rest. We have to be alert. Part of this wilderness we're traveling through is knowing that there will be an end. Knowing that at some time the master is going to show up. And we're not gonna want to miss that. We're gonna want to be there for that amazing and glorious and wonderful moment when he gets there. This is not the time to rest. It's the time to hunker down and get the job done. Now, I remember in college that we would have these study sessions, and sometimes, I'm not going to lie, when I was in calculus, even though our calculus class was 5 days a week at 8 o'clock in the morning, our study session, we had 3 study sessions every day, but our final study session started at 10 o'clock at night. So we would have our study session from 10 o'clock until usually about 12 or 12:30. And then we would all drag ourselves back to our dorms. We would do all the other things we hadn't gotten done that day that needed to be done. And we would get a tiny ounce of rest before we had to wake up and do everything all over again. And sometimes those 8 o'clock in the morning classes, especially when it was 5 days a week, they were not fun. It was miserable because it was so hard to stay alert. And yet we had to. We had to hunker down and be our most alert so that we could learn a very difficult subject. And that's what this passage is asking of the gatekeeper or the doorkeeper in this reading. I know it's going to be hard to be alert. I know you're going to be dragging. But I will be coming and you don't know when, so don't fall asleep. Because this is the time when it's most important to pay attention. Are we alert in our exhaustion in our wilderness? Because exhaustion's going to happen. It is. Our lives are too busy. There's too much going on, and it's hard. It is hard. But Jesus is coming. And we don't know when, and we don't know how, and we don't know what it's going to look like, but we know it's going to be amazing and glorious, and we're not going to want to miss it. And what will all our work be for if we don't stay alert at a time like this? It'll all be for naught. If we don't want our time to be wasted in our exhaustion of wilderness, we need to stay alert, which might be one of the hardest things for us. Let's face it, we're kind of used to not paying attention in our world. We're used to not resting more than we need to. That's not the problem. But we're used to only paying partial attention. For example, when we listen to a conversation, a lot of times we don't listen so that we can hear something. We listen so that we can respond to it. We're not really a captive audience. We are half listening, waiting for our place to speak. What if, even in our exhaustion, we learned to listen intently and pay attention and be alert? What if instead of anticipating our response, we await God's response? We're gonna get ready to do some amazing congregational emphasis on prayer this coming year, and we already start planning. That's how it works around here, and So we've already been talking about this, and one of the first things that we identified as important in prayer is listening. How will we know Christ has arrived with us? How will we know that God is here if we don't listen? Maybe instead of anticipating our response, we need to anticipate God's. Instead of speaking our voice, we need to listen for the voice of God. About that day and hour, no one knows. So be aware and keep alert. Listen for me because I'm coming. You don't know what you're going to expect. So you have to listen for it. You have to be ready. You have to be intent. And then you'll recognize me. I cannot wait for the coming of Christ. It is going to be so glorious. And it looks like I'm not sure yet. Even the Bible's not super clear. There are a lot of people who think they know exactly what's going to happen because they've put together little bits and pieces from here and there and tried to use it in a way that it wasn't intended to construct some sort of a picture. And in the end, we don't know what it's going to look like because this even tells us we don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know. We have to pay attention. We have to be alert. And we have to listen to God's response instead of insisting upon our own. Instead of saying, when Christ comes, it's going to look like this, so that's what I'm going to look for. That's not listening. Listening isn't listening for a certain thing only. It's listening for everything and being alert and open to what God has in store for us. So listen. Pay attention. Because the wilderness we're in may be exhausting, may be a bit too much for us sometimes, a little overwhelming. But our Master is coming, and we need to listen. Amen.